That's right, babies. Fieros Industries. Come on! Come on! Come on! Come on! Come on! Fieros Industries, babies. That is... Look at that. How good is that, eh? Fucking hell. It's amazing. So, now you know who I am. Or at least the name of me at this time, anyway. I have many names, but the Fieros that can be named is not the eternal Fieros, as is written in the Fieros Te Ching by Lao Tzu. Fieros Tzu. Hey, hello, welcome to me, Fieros Reborn, here representing myself, out to represent Fieros Industries as well, which is this new brand of producting. I don't really know what to fucking call it. This is a brand. It's a brand. It's a brand. It's a brand. It's a company. It's a brand. It's not quite a company yet, but it will be a company at some point. It's a brand. Fieros Industries. I think it's pretty cool. Don't you? Anyway. So let us crack on now with the storytelling of story time. Come on now, story time. Everybody sit on the carpet and time for story time. Oh yeah, but before that, sorry. So this is one of 5 new t-shirt designs that I've come up with. So this is a piece of artwork I did in 2015, I think. Yeah. And I don't know why, it's never particularly stuck out to me, honestly. I've never really liked it, but all of a sudden, as I was making these t-shirts, I was like, actually, that works quite well as a t-shirt design. Bizarrely, I just thought it's really different. It just stands out. It's odd, you know, but it works. It's just a page of a cream-coloured sketchbook that I did. Didn't take me very long. And it doesn't really mean anything. It was just a description of the feeling that I felt inside. That was sort of in my heart area. Like, it's actually, when I was drawing it, I was drawing this kind of area, how that area felt just inside. It wasn't a particularly nice feeling, but it works. I think it works. So that's why I've made a thing of it. So at least you're just going to have that there for a whole video, which is pretty cool. You always know who is talking to you at this time. Of Name of Fieros. So there are 5 new designs that I've made. This is number 1. I'm going to give you a new one on each video, so I'll give you a little bit of give you something to look forward to on each video. I've still got the old flame designs, but I need to like rework them to introduce the Fieros logo. So I've got 2 different ways of doing the logo at the moment. This way and then another way with a particular font, and that actually just happens to be a few of the 2 fonts that I picked out of the available ones on the t-shirt designing website that seem to fit quite well with my ethos. So this is I guess this is the kind of sketchbook arty style, and then you've got the other one which you'll see next time, which is this kind of swish. Cool. It's supposed to be kind of cool, maybe futuristic plus retro at the same time. I don't know. It's yeah, it's supposed to be kind of swish and cool, and it does. I think it looks quite cool. I quite like the font, and it just works well with my the sort of feeling that I'm going for, and the feeling I wish to express about my brand, about myself, about why I'm here, and like what I like to bring to the table. So yeah, you'll see that next time. So look forward to that. These thingies are not available for sale as yet because I haven't actually worked out how to do that. I mean, it's pretty easy to do, but I haven't kind of finalized which provider. I mean, that's the thing, is like which provider, which shop front am I going to use to have like my merchandise displayed, because really I kind of need to make a comprehensive overview of all the different things that I'm going to be outputting. So like, for example, I got this mousepad made from Vistaprint, and a couple of the other things that I got made were from Vistaprint. The posters I got made from Vistaprint. This I got made from Team Shirt. and it's pretty good. It's good quality. This is the cheapest one that they had, and it's decent quality. You know, it's not terrible and it's not amazing, but it's fairly good. It's better than the Vistaprint ones. The Vistaprint quality on those t-shirts, the long sleeved ones, because I got I got two long sleeved ones from Vistaprint, and the quality of it, it feels like it's made of plastic or something. It's horrible. It's a really horrible feeling. And the fit was off, really weird fit on it as well. Like, just don't know. I've never worn a long sleeve t-shirt that has had such a strange fit. It was just tight in all the wrong places, if that makes sense. And it wasn't to do with the size either. It was the right size. It's just designed weird. It's like it's been designed by a chimpanzee on a chimpanzee's budget. Three bananas. 3 bananas is what the people got paid. That's all they can afford. I don't know why it's so bad, but it's terrible. And then the other shirt that I got, the very first long sleeved one I got, with the small flame logo, was from Team Shirt, because that's where I got it from. Because it was more expensive, but I just got it from there. That was the first one I got, and that's why I've gone back to them, because the quality is better. The print quality is pretty much the same between Team Shirt and Vistaprint, but the t-shirt quality is much better. The speed of delivery from Vistaprint is quicker, or like print and delivery, so the overall time is quicker from making the order to receiving the order, but the quality sucks. So it's just like, that's why I did another prototype from Vistaprint, just because I wanted to have it come quickly and it was cheaper. But now I'm like, I don't need to do that anymore, because I'm settled on this Team Shirt company. However, for the future, as I was saying just before, like, in order to bring all my merchandise together, I want to have one coherent shop front, and it might mean that I get different providers, but that I just, like, I want to have one place that can provide all my merchandise, and then I just have a shop front from that place, and then embed that in a website, so that if you hear of me, and you want to know where you can get merch from or find out more about me, you go to my website, and everything is there. That's the coherent place. That's the coherent shop front for me. And then you've got obviously the different social media aspects of my presence online and stuff as well. And then obviously you've got my offline presence, my real world presence. Is there such a thing? Yeah. So everything is still very vague, and I'm just in prototype phase at the moment. I'm just kind of having fun. One of the main reasons I bought these is because I want to fucking wear them myself. I mean, I'm just excited really at the moment, and so I'm trying to take it with a bit of lightness. There is a business to come from this, but at this point it's more like I'm just having fun making stuff that I want to wear for myself. And I think that's the way I want to do it, and I think that's the right way to do it. For me, anyway, I'd encourage other people to do things like this themselves. Like, if you've got a business idea, start with yourself. What do you like? What is enjoyable for you? And what do you wish to express? And then go from there. But yeah, so anyway, for me, it's like, I wanted to wear this. I thought these would be cool to wear, and I'm so happy to have my actual artwork working for me in some way, doing something cool, not just sitting in a sketchbook in a drawer somewhere or sitting on the wall somewhere. I want it. I can wear it now, and I can go, I did this, I made this, look at me, aren't I amazing? And also, look at this, isn't it cool? Okay, so that's my update on my business. Things are moving. As I say, nothing's available as of yet in terms of this merch. My books are available, some of them anyway. I can't be bothered. I'm gonna have to do a actual session of bringing things together. I mean, things are slowly coming together bit by bit, but I need to sort of put everything in one place and say, this is available, this is available, this is available, these are the prices, maybe discounts, I don't know, bulk purchases, I don't know. Yeah, I just have it like, here you go, I am now ready to launch. But I'm not ready to launch now, but that's what I'll get to that point where I'm ready to launch my brand, my business, my company of items. It's going to be items. I don't think services, but items. And maybe services as well. I've got ideas for doing talks about various subjects. For example, maybe mental health would be an appropriate one, considering a lot of the stuff I write about and have been working on in these videos has been about mental health. But I also want to really focus on spirituality. That's where I want to go with talks. So I guess it would be talking about spirituality and mental health and how they interact, or the intersection, the intertwining of those two ideas in life, or understandings, whatever, and bringing in ideas of well-being. So from psychological point of view, I'm not really very keen on psychology actually anymore, in terms of wellness and well-being and whatever, and happiness. I'm really much more oriented towards a spirituality based understanding of wellness, well-being, happiness. So yeah. Anyway, let's carry on. So we're in a really good part of the story now, in terms of it's very rich, and there's a lot to say, and there are a lot of clear memories in this period as well. So the period in time that we're speaking about, that I'm speaking about in this phase, is from, well, I think it's May 2008 to, well, it was 72 days, because I remember that specifically. So let's have a look on today, this year's calendar, and just sort of, or next year's calendar, and just work it. So if I was in there, like, let's just say, for argument's sake, May the 1st, then we go 72 days, or 30 days would be May the 30th. 60 days would be June. No. Oh, bloody hell. Yeah, 60 days would be June 29th. So 72 days would be maths is failing me. 72. So 11th of July. So like around the middle of July, basically. 2008. So from May, I think it was actually middle of May, to late July 2008. Right, middle of May to late July 2008. 72 days. I counted them up afterwards, and the other way was counting it. The other way of counting it was 9 weeks. 9 weeks. I used to say I was very proud of the fact that I'd been in hospital for 9 weeks, but it wasn't proud. It was resentful. But I guess it was proud as well. It was like proud that I survived, but also there was this sense of being wronged, and being wronged for a long time. 9 weeks. 9 weeks made it sound like a big deal, you know. 9 weeks in hospital. 9 weeks, you know. It just makes it sound much more important than if you say, "Oh, I was in hospital for a bit," or "I was in hospital for like 2.5 months." Now, maybe that sounds worse if you say 2.5 months. It makes it sound longer. I don't know, but for me, to say 9 weeks sounds long. And also to say 72 days, that sounds long. Because it's a bigger number, isn't it? 72. But 2.5 months also sounds long, to be in a hospital. 2.5 months. But then again, it's all comparative, isn't it? Some people stay in a hospital for way longer than 2.5 months. So they'll be going like, 2.5 months, psh, it's nothing, mate. But then you get people who are in hospital for like a day or 2 days, and obviously it depends on what condition. I'm talking about physical and mental conditions. So if you're in hospital for an operation, you might be in there for like a day or a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Or if you're in there for a longer term condition, you could be in there for ages and ages and ages, loads of weeks, and or all the way until you die, for example. So there you go. But for me, this 2.5 months thing, the 72 days, the 9 weeks, it felt like possibly the longest period in time I'd ever experienced. If you thought that waiting for half term while you're going through school was long, then waiting to get out of hospital when you don't even know when the section ends, when you don't know when the section is going to end, it just feels so much longer, because it's like time expands out into the future, exponentially. You know, if you've got the idea that this section can be renewed and renewed and renewed, then you just have this idea of, okay, so I could be here for ages and ages and ages. Plus, there are examples of people who were in there with me. One guy, his name was Mark, and he'd been in hospital this time round, I think, for 6 months. He'd been out of hospital before that, but then like the previous stay that he was in hospital, I'm talking about psychiatric ward, he was in the hospital for 14 months. 14 months in hospital in mental health ward. So just to run that forward, so I don't know what his situation was like before, but he wasn't in hospital, and then he got hospitalized for 14 months. Then he had a break of being out of hospital and back into the community, into the wild, and then he got back into hospital for another 6 months. So those are long periods of time to be in that sort of environment. It depends on your understanding of time, but in the conventional understanding of time, that's quite a long period of time to be in a hospital environment, contrasted with being in your home environment or being in a flat or wherever, you know. So yeah, but so when I came out of hospital, I did wear it as a kind of badge of I've survived, or I've got through it, or I sort of used the amount of time in there as a way to say they were wrong because they kept me in there for so long. And also, like, I'm resentful about the fact that I was in this place for so long. So I used the length of time against the system to say, it was just like, because basically I was unhappy a hell of a lot of the time in hospital. And I didn't want to be there. So I really felt that sense of time, you know, that sense of time dragging. I wrote a song which was called Going Home, but this happened after hospital. But anyway, one of the lines in that song was time drags slow, the sludge under the bridge. So what I was trying to say is that just time was just dragging so slowly in the hospital while I was on the ward, like it was sludge very slowly, you know, under a bridge, just moving very slowly under a bridge. I wasn't actually making a reference to the fact that I stayed under a bridge with a hobo, but you can read that into it if you want. Yeah, so it was grueling because that sense of time was long, mainly because of the expansiveness out into the future of it. So if there was a cut and dried endpoint in sight, then I think I could have managed my sense of time better, if that makes sense. As in, I keep making the allusion to prison stay, or even like for example, something like half term at school, or um, you know, time until a holiday, for example. You know, when you've got certain amount of time in advance, you know how long something's going to take, then your emotional self is in preparation for that. So you kind of you're aware of how long it's going to take. So it's like you're pacing through this known quantity of time. Like, for example, even if you're watching a video and you know how long the video is going to take, you have this sense of an understanding at the outset that, well, you know, you might be committed to that full length of time, or you might feel like, okay, if it's dragging, then I'm going to get out of the video and watch something else. Does that make sense? So, but you know at the outset, so you're able to pace your emotions in response to that. So, like, if you're going to watch an hour-long video, like this one, for example, then you've already committed to that idea that it's an hour long. Whether you get through the whole thing or not is different, you know, but at least you know in advance how long that is, so you kind of can make assessments as to how long things feel as you go along and decide what you're going to do about it. But the thing with being in hospital, for me personally, was this sense of the unknown quantity of time being in there. And also the fact that the time length of me being in the hospital was being controlled by external forces, being controlled by the doctors and the nurses reporting to the doctors. And it was like, I couldn't just say, oh, by the way, I'd like to go out now. Oh, by the way, I've had enough in here now. Can I go now? And also, like, there was the same thing about the prison aspect. Like, if it was a prison, there would have been a defined time limit, and then I just feel like it would have been better if I had known how long it was likely that I was to stay in there. Because actually, some of the discussions and arguments that I had with some of the staff were, I was really depressed, and I couldn't see an end in sight to this being in hospital. I couldn't see it, because there was no structure to tell me that it's possible for me to get out, because I'm seeing people in the hospital who have been there for, as I just said about Mark, 14 months, 6 months. There's this one person who was an old man, and his name was Gavin. I'm going to be probably talking about Gavin a hell of a lot in the coming videos, because he was really important to my understanding and to my feeling about hospital, and he's kind of quite symbolic as to what hospital was like and what hospital represents to me. He's, as a person, if I take him as a symbol, a character, if you like, he really embodies a lot about what being in a mental health hospital is like, and what it's about, and what it represents, what it means in terms of humanity and experience and stuff. So he's kind of this little entity inside me that reminds me of hospitalness and seems to have a deeper meaning. He's a bit like a Christ figure in my head, like he's the Christ being crucified by his mental health condition and by the system and so on. So anyway, but Gavin had been in the hospital for I don't even know how long. But the tragedy of his story is that he ended up dying in there, and he'd been in there I don't know how long for, but I presume maybe a number of years, or certainly a long time. And that was his life, at the end of his life. So there were people who had been in there for extremely long periods of time, which was setting a precedent and an understanding and a background awareness. Okay, I could be in here for a long time, and I don't actually have a say in that. So the feeling is loss of control, powerlessness, despair, despondency, depression, a sense of doom, not knowingness, and this fear and the need to escape. And also a sense of isolation as well, because I felt like I was being neglected by the staff. Like, they didn't really care whether I was happy or not. They just cared whether they were ticking enough boxes for their notes and their criteria that they have to note down and the questions they have to ask me and stuff like that. There were people who cared, but it was like these little pockets of people who cared, and they'd come along and you go, finally someone who actually wishes to extend themselves beyond the little notebooks that they have to tick, or the little clipboard, with the pen and the paper and the questions and the yeah. Okay, so maybe the talking about the ward might be a bit of a melange, a mess of me talking about different stuff. So I've covered the idea that one of the reasons I was so unhappy about being in hospital was pretty much the main reason, actually, why I was unhappy being in hospital, was because I didn't have a sense of where this was going. I didn't have a sense of any power or control or influence over my fate. So it's hard to understand, like, what is the reason that is distressing? Why is that distressing? I mean, apart from just saying it just is. Yeah. It's just this feeling of trapped, contained, wrongness, needing to escape, against my will, no control, no decision-making ability, or you only have decision-making ability within the confines of that place. no ability to have a job. There's also a sense while I was in hospital of me being separated from the rest of the world, and also like so because of that, I felt like I wasn't contributing to life because the life situation that I was in was very, very limited. So I didn't feel like anything I could do in there had any meaning because it was like a contained, isolated situation. So I felt like somehow I'd been removed from life itself, even though I wasn't removed from life itself, but I was separated off from society. So I felt this disconnect that somehow I'd been completely removed from humanity, I suppose. Um, and obviously, I wasn't removed from humanity because there's humanity all around me in terms of the patients and the nurses and the visitors and stuff. But it just felt like because I'd been separated, because I'd been isolated into there, cut off from the rest of the world, it just felt like, therefore, anything I created in there or said in there or did in there only had the scope to affect anything within that closed system. So it was like it had a feeling that nothing I could ever do while I was in there would have any impact beyond that space. Almost like what goes on in hospital stays in hospital, that kind of thing. But it was incredibly disempowering. It's a feeling of powerlessness and a feeling of disconnection and loss of hope and loss of well, a bit of like loss of grandiosity. So it means that I will never be able to have any influence in the way that I would like to, which would be a wide influence in life. But it was just this feeling that everything in my life previously had been rendered meaningless. And there was a potential for it to remain meaningless. As in, there was the idea that I might stay in there forever, like some of these other people who ended up dying in this hospital. And therefore, what would my life have become? It would be my life would be confined only to the hospital. And I found that very difficult to create a sense of meaning while I was in the hospital because I could only see that situation. I found it very difficult to imagine legitimately being set free. I felt like I just wasn't being given the indication that I would actually get out of there. I always felt like I always felt like that I was going to be there forever. I think really that was the fear, and that was my belief that because there were so many other people who've been in there for so long, it just extrapolated out to okay, I'm probably going to be in here for the rest of my life, and I might never escape. I might never get out. And I certainly didn't feel like they would legitimately let me out because there was no indication. You know, I didn't have any way to assess that it might be possible that I would get out because all I ever saw was that situation, and I was never told, okay, this is when you're going to get out, and this is how it will go. I just feel like I wish they'd just said to me, your section is a 6-month section, but it's quite likely that you can get out before that. Okay? Or even if they just said, you may well come out a lot sooner than your 6-month section. The 6-month section is a legal thing. We have to do it for this particular, because it's a treatment order. Doesn't mean to say that we're going to use the whole 6 months. The treatment order is there to make sure that you are safe to yourself because of our help, to make sure that you're safe unto yourself and to other people, and that you're removed from the outside world so that you're not a danger to other people in the outside world or a danger to yourself by being in the outside world. So, but the treatment order is a way to protect yourself and to protect society and other people from harm from you. and it's there so that we can have you here, keep you here, yes, keep you here, in order to help you get better. And if you get better, according to these criteria, by the way, here are the criteria we're going to be assessing you on. If you do get better according to these criteria, and here they are, that's quite important for me to understand. If I had a list of criteria or understanding about how I'm being judged, then I would have been much more able to kind of work with that and to know, it would just give me a sense of moving forwards and progress. Whereas I was never told, what perceptions of me are these people having, and like, am I doing anything about that? Is this just something because of the drugs? What? It's just so vague, the whole thing, as to like why I was there. Not really sure. How long am I going to be there for? Definitely not sure. How am I going to get out? Don't know. When am I going to get out? Definitely don't know. Why will I be let out? Like, on what basis will I be let out? What are the criteria that I will be assessed on? That at some point they will say, okay, he's ready to move back into the community or whatever. So all these questions I didn't have answers to, which meant that it was very, very confusing to be in there. So I was saying something about like things I wish I'd been told. So I was saying like, okay, so if they told me that the 6-month treatment order was possible length of treatment, but could be longer, could be much shorter, depending on how you respond to treatment. And by the way, we're looking for signs of you being more coherent in the way you speak, expressing ideas clearly, seeming to have a regular and stable mood, stuff like that. And that really wasn't explained to me at all, but I'm guessing that's kind of what they were looking for. But things are so confusing, and I'm trying to express why that's distressing. I'm not exactly sure why. I can just say that it was distressing to be out of the loop. I felt like I was out of the loop on my care. I was out of the loop on my treatment, right? So this was just stuff just being handed to me, given to me, come to me, take these medications. This is where you are now. You've been put here. You have no choice. You have no option. So this is all just like things happening to me, and all I had decision-making ability over was, where in the ward am I going to go now? Basically, who am I going to speak to and what am I going to do on the ward? It wasn't like I didn't have the decision to just say, okay, I'll go out now for a walk. It had to be all on the ward because I was trapped. That was the detention part of it. I don't know, maybe this is just kind of all obvious to you, I don't know, but for me it feels like it's quite difficult to explain, like, what's the big deal? So what, you're in hospital, why are you so distressed? I was so bleak, man. So bleak. I spent a hell of a lot of time just in bed, in my room, in the dark, trying to sleep to protect myself from this horrible feeling of despair and fucking depression and suicidal thoughts. Because I just saw no hope. I saw no understanding of what the hell is going on, and no one was reassuring me, and no one was like spending time with me to actually cheer me up, for example. And I was having these side effects from my medications, which were making my neck stiff, one thing. So I was like always very stiff and found it hard to actually move my neck. And then another aspect of it as well was that my words were really slurring. So I don't know exactly what part of the medication it is, but some part of it, it's well documented that some antipsychotic medications, can have a side effect of slurring of words and stiffness in muscles. So I was having this slurring word thing where it was really quite hard for me to speak sometimes, and it was, really affected my ability to speak. And that's distressing, and it took like ages for the staff members to even recognise that I was having those fucking symptoms. There was supposed to be this symptom form, and there was a symptom form. There was a side effects, like medication side effects form that you had to fill out, and I filled out the damn thing, but it just kind of went into the abyss. I think I filled it out 2 or 3 times to say I'm having stiffness of neck and muscle difficulties, whatever, right? And you fill in this form because I was having side effects, and it just goes into this kind of abyss of notes. So they take the form, they go, and it goes into this like pile of notes somewhere in the office that someone at some point is going to read and look at it and go, oh, maybe he's in distress. So what that meant was, because I was having these side effects, I was also having the feeling that no one's listening to me. I feel like I'm going to cry in this video because it's really fucking shit. So I was in this place, I had no control, no say, no influence, no hope, no plan, no understanding, and no clarity. No clarity of answer to my questions. It was always like, well, no freedom. There's being trapped. There's nutters everywhere. So nutters everywhere. I mean, to be fair, that was probably the highlight of the thing. The nutters, it keeps it interesting. That's one aspect of staying in a psychiatric ward that actually is quite fun, because everyone's mad, and everyone's mad in their own way. So you get to experience people's madness. So you get people talking gibberish, people squawking, people shouting, people throwing over tables, people randomly getting angry. And I think the randomness of that is the fun of it, because you never know how someone's going to react. Nothing violent ever happened towards me, actually, but some people got upset by me asking them very normal questions like, what's your name? And they're like, so yeah, so there is some fun about it, and everyone's like got their quirks and their kookiness. Like some of the stories that you hear, other people's sort of deluded or crazy, whacked out, distorted narratives about things are quite interesting. So there's a lot of colour in there. So that was a good side of it, and I'll talk more about that in detail as well. I've got a lot to talk about in this ward thing. Like at the moment, I'm just really speaking in terms of like the feeling of it, or the vague feelings of trappedness and despair and depression and stuff. So I was talking about the medication side effects, yeah? So I filled out this form a couple of times, and they're not fucking listening to it. Like, so you think, well, I thought to myself, what the hell is the point of these fucking medication side effects forms if I'm filling them out and I'm handing them in and no one's reading them? And if they are reading them, they're not doing anything about it. So why even fucking have the form? It's that kind of feeling where you think, I'll probably get more done if I just punch someone in the face. Because at least then they fucking listen to me. And they go, why have you punched him in the face? Oh, because I'm having side effects from my medication. Well, why didn't you say? I did fucking say. I wrote on the fucking form 2 or 3 times. But you didn't read it. Or if you did read it, you didn't tell me and you didn't do anything about it and you didn't change anything. You didn't acknowledge it. I didn't punch anyone in the face, but it's that sense of like, what can I do? You know, I'm following your fucking procedures as much as I can. Why is nothing changing? So I had this slurring of words, which made it difficult for me to interact with my family when they came to visit and interact with anyone. And it's like, how do you not even notice that? You know, like, I'm talking to you. How do you not just go, obviously he's having a slurring of word side effects. It's well known, it's well documented. Like, I'm talking to nurses and I'm even saying to them, slurring of words, and they're like, just ticking a box or whatever to say that they've spent 5 minutes with me that they're supposed to spend. Like, they're not even fucking there. You know, these people, they come to talk to you, they're not really there. They're thinking about the next person they have to be with. They're just thinking about the form they have to fill in. They're not actually there listening to you and caring about you and being there. All right, some of them are, but there was certain people, or one specific person, who I just felt like he just wanted to be elsewhere the whole time. He's always checking his fucking watch. He's supposed to be there for like 20 minutes per day. You're supposed to get like 10 or 20 minute session with a key nurse every day, where they are there to be with you and to take care of you in some way, or like just sort of give you quality time basically. And they have to do this fucking box ticking thing where they ask you about if you want to harm yourself or anyone else, and that was pretty much all he did. And he sort of did that and he went, yeah, looking at his watch, and he was like thinking, I've got all these other things to do. I could see that he was just wanting to get out of there as quick as possible. And for me, that sucks, you know. I'm in distress. I'm in a bad situation in my life. I'm in a fucking hospital. I don't know why I'm there. I'm feeling like shit. You know, all my life has just sort of crumbled around me. And all the freedom and excitement of my psychosis, spirituality experience, whatever, has suddenly become crushed because I've been doped up on these medicines. Because they said to me, you have to take the meds, because if you don't take them willingly, then we will administer them forcefully. So they're not even giving you a real option. The option is you are going to take them. Either you put them in your mouth or we jab you in the arse. So whatever the case, the medicines are going into you. Your choice is not around the whether you're having them, it's how you're going to have them. So based on that, I decided that I would just take them because I didn't want to have the experience of being forcefully pinned down or held down or whatever. So I just decided, okay, you win. You fucking win, you bunch of assholes. You've put me in a corner where you've given me no option. You put me in a hospital when I'm trapped. You're now saying, okay, you have even less decision making now. Not only can you not leave, you also cannot control what you ingest, because if you don't take your medicines willingly, we're going to shove them in you. So, thanks. Yeah, so as I was saying about this one particular nurse guy, he's supposed to be there for 20 minutes, or 10 to 20 minutes, I can't remember. And he's just sitting there like thinking about anything else and looking around the room and thinking he's supposed to be elsewhere and checking his watch, and he just does the bare minimum. And I'm like, don't do that job. Don't just quit that job because you're not helping. You're making things worse. I felt uncared for. I felt unlistened to, if that's a fucking word. I felt actually worse for having spent time with him than if he wasn't there. So I actually asked to get that guy changed. As in, I wanted a different key worker because this guy was like, what's the purpose of you? you're actually making me feel worse. All you're asking me about is whether I want to harm myself or harm anyone else. If you keep fucking asking me, I'll harm you. That's not true. I never said that. And I never harmed anyone while I was in hospital anyway. Obviously, I slapped my dad outside of hospital on a couple of occasions. But yeah, but no. I was thinking, if you keep asking me if I'm going to harm myself, you're actually putting the idea into my head. I didn't have the idea in my head before then. You're actually asking me that question all the fucking time. You're making me think about it, you know? Normally, no one's asked me that, so I'm not thinking about it, but you keep fucking asking me, so I keep fucking thinking about it, you know? I don't think about harming myself, but because you keep asking me, I might do now. Now you give me the idea. You know? What? Ugh. What else? Yeah, so I'll try and finish off this side effects thing briefly. Yeah, and then we'll end it on that, hopefully. So eventually I did manage to get the side effects of the medication reduced. So the way that worked was, well, I filled out the form, as I said, but it went into the abyss of forms and notes. See, the way that it works, supposedly, is that the notes get reviewed by the nurses, and then the nurses take the notes to the consultants in a ward round or in a meeting about the case. Something, I forget what it was called, but like they have a weekly or 2 weekly, I think it's actually fortnightly, yeah, a fortnightly meeting where each patient's case is discussed in depth as to their treatment plan. So that's based on the observations that have been made by the staff members, the nurses there. Because the nurses are observing patients as well as doing other activities with them and the questions and stuff. So, but there are like nurses who are walking around with clipboards, which again is fucking disturbing and distressing because you constantly feel like you're being watched all the time, because you are being watched all the time. I even wrote a song called Watch, which is all about that feeling of that being watched, being observed, being judged, being labelled, being scrutinised, because they're not just watching you and saying, oh yeah, there he is. No, they are observing you with a view to something. That makes sense there. So they're assessing, constantly assessing. So that feeling of being assessed or judged really boils down to it's almost a feeling of being rejected or criticised or made smaller, turned into kind of numbers or something, turned into boxes, turned into little statements about stuff. So I feel like you're really missing out on who I actually am and my character, because all you have to see is symptoms and behavior and how my mood appears and things like that. So, and it's just like disturbing because you don't feel you have any privacy, because someone's always fucking watching you. Wherever you go, there's someone going, you know. I tried to have a wank in my room, and you have to be very careful because trying to have a wank in your room, you have to really like make sure you're hiding it and doing it at a late, like beyond lights out kind of period. Because even during lights out, someone comes around and looks through your window every like hour or something and goes, is he dead? Has he tried to kill himself at this point? Has he tried to hang himself from the inside of the wardrobe? Is he ligaturing his ligaturing his neck? Is he trying to like strangle himself with a piece of cotton that he's unravelled from the bed? Because people do that. I've read about that, but I didn't see it. Yeah. Has he tried to crush himself under the weight of the wardrobe? Has he tried to smash open a window with the chest of drawers and escaped? You know, they're always poking their heads through the little fucking window going, you know, so you just see someone's head every now and again go through the window. It's quite unsettling. It's really unsettling. So that's that feeling of no privacy. Yeah. Okay, so back to the medicines again. So again, slurring of words, stiff neck, and I kind of felt like the antidepressants, I felt like they were actually lowering my mood. And I did this thing where I felt how I felt in myself before I took my medication. And I was like, this is how I am before I take my medication. I'm happy. I feel good. And then medication time would come, which was like 7:30, I think, in the morning. And I was trying to like communicate with someone. I believe it was the kitchen staff, the catering staff, whatever. I sort of said to the person there, I said, this is how I am before I have my medication. I feel okay. I feel happy. I feel quite bright. And then I go and have my medication. I'd be like, yeah, for the rest of the day. And I'd be in bed and feeling low and depressed, because I swear that antidepressant medication or the antipsychotic medication was just dampening my whole nervous system. And I think that's how it works. It just feels like it's a numbing suppressant. It's a suppressant of something. Just suppresses behavior and suppresses expression and stuff. That's how I see it anyway. So eventually my parents, I think it was my dad or maybe my mum, helped me to campaign to get a side effect reduction pill. So I remember having a meeting with my psychiatric consultant doctor while in the ward, and her name was Dr. Clifford. And she was a dragon of a lady. She was a dragon. I did not like her at all. She was very curt, crisp, hard, not a caring person. Maybe she was in other areas of her life, but she was just brisk, like a school head mistress. Draconian kind of feeling. Victorian, very, very, I'm a doctor, I'm in power, you're the lesser being, I'm the well one, you're the ill one, that type of thing. She did not look well. I think she must have been a deeply unhappy person, but she just had a reasonable job to hide it behind. Anyway, that's my thoughts about that. There'll be more about Dr. Clifford later, I'm sure. But I remember having this meeting with her where finally I managed to express the fact that I was having a stiff neck and slurring my words. I think my dad was in on that conversation as well. I managed to get him involved to sort of be a spokesperson or a helper to help me convey how I was feeling to Dr. Clifford. And she just kind of went, oh yeah, we'll just get you a symptom reduction pill. And I was like, this has been going on for 2 weeks or 3 weeks now. This is my feeling about it anyway. This has been going on for 3 weeks. It's taken this long of me campaigning and saying, I'm having this side effect. It's really hard to speak. It's making me feel upset. I feel depressed. I can't communicate anymore because of your stupid fucking medications. And my range of movement is lower. It feels weird. It feels uncomfortable. But mainly the most distressing part was the fact that I couldn't speak properly. Because remember, I'm a singer, and I was a stand-up comedian for a bit, and I prided myself on this speaking ability. I'm a communicator type of person. Look what I'm doing. I'm on video. I'm communicating, right? So this speech thing was important to me, and no one's listening to me. Probably because they can't hear what I'm saying properly. Yeah, I've got a slurred, my speech slurred. What are you saying? Forget about it. He can't hear what he's saying. He's slurring his words all the time. That's what I'm trying to tell you, it's slurred. What? Oh, fuck him. Very callous. I felt like the system is callous. It's not necessarily the individual people, but it's the way that it works. Because you can write these forms down, as in write on these forms to say that you've had these side effects, and then it just disappears somewhere into a pile, into a mess of notes. And as I say, it took like 2 or 3 weeks for them to register the fact I'm having this distressing experience. I'm in a mental health hospital, and I've only just realised I'm upset. And it was only because it was like a scheduled fortnightly appointment with the doctor, that anything got changed. That could have been changed on the first day that I'd reported it. But for some reason, although I told nurses, I think it's because the nurses don't really have the power to administer medication. So it has to go through a doctor. And the way that the system is structured, because of the amount of patients, I presume, is that there's a significant time lag between your meetings with doctors. So it's like once a week or once every 2 weeks. I feel like it's once every 2 weeks that you have a meeting with a consultant doctor who has any influence over medication. So, you can talk to nurses until you're blue in the face about your medication, and all they can do is just put it in the notes or bring it up at the ward round or in the patient evaluation meetings that they have with the doctor. But even then, the doctor will go, okay, well, that's what we're going to do in the next time I meet with a patient, which is in a week's time or something. So it's just like, yeah. But the moral of the story is, or the resolution to the story, not necessarily moral, the resolution to the story is that my dad and I managed to convey the fact that I was having this side effect from the medication, the slurred words and the stiff neck, and the limited movement in the top half of my body. And Dr. Clifford said, oh, okay, well, we'll just get you a anti-side effect pill then. It's a little yellow pill. And I think my dad felt it as well. We're thinking like, why didn't you do this before? So the moral of the story is, the mental health system is structured badly for its purpose. If its purpose is to reduce suffering or to make people feel better overall, it's very poorly structured, or it was poorly structured. I don't know about now, but when I experienced it, it was a fucking shambles, basically. Yeah. Okay. That'll do for now. I'm tired and drained, and Fieros is sinking down. So thanks for watching. I hope that's given you some food for thought about the mental health system. We got a lot to talk about in Ward 12. I really want to talk about each person individually. Yeah, because there's patients in there who deserve a say through me. They deserve their story to be told through me, as in my story of them anyway. And then there are situations that need to be described, and there are themes that I need to go through about how the system works and how people are treated and stuff like that. So yeah, and then so this is good though, because this is where the story times have been heading the whole way through. This is the real meat of it, the real heart of it, as to this is where it ends. Really, this is like the peak third act or second act, peak of the second act, where the meat of the action is. Well, the meat of the meaning, I suppose, because there's a lot of action preceding this. There's a real sense of this is where it all comes together. And then after this, I'm going to talk about hospital, the aftermath of hospital. So I anticipate that being less to talk about. I mean, the main thing that I have to say about it is I was depressed for a number of years, and how did I deal with the depression, basically, and how did the depression heal slowly, and how did it develop and stuff like that. So there's that to talk about. But yeah, so we're going to carry on talking about Ward 12 next time. Thanks very much for watching, and you will see me in a different t-shirt next time on Fieros Reborn.